People do all kinds of weird and amazing stuff when they're scared.
I can tell you the license plate numbers of all 6 cars outside. I can tell you that our waitress is left-handed and the guy sitting up at the counter weighs 215 pounds and knows how to handle himself. I know the best place to look for a gun is the cab of the gray truck outside. And at this altitude, I can run flat out for a half mile before my hands start shaking. Now, why would I know that?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Boondock Medicine. Everybody's angry in the United States. Everybody's angry in the United States over these recent school shootings in Texas. And what has prompted me to diverge from the medical aspect of Boondock Medicine and into the survival aspect of Boondock Medicine. Look, there are so many people to blame for this tragedy, one hardly knows where to start. Truly, everybody's to blame. Certainly police training is a cause. However, a mindset that thinks police are going to be there in your hour of need is naive and possibly dangerous. But the police are only one part of this abomination. Your school boards can receive much of the blame too, putting money in their pockets rather than hardening their school facilities against terrorist acts borders on criminal. Truly. The concept that it will never happen in our schools is moronic at best. Parents, personal protection for your children is not a new idea. Go online and find composite ballistic material, shove it in your child's backpack, and statistics tell us that most children are shot in the back as they ran away from an assailant. So everybody's culpable, and with some forethought, this terrorist act could have been avoided. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but let's get down to brass tacks. Here's a guy who works in a fast food restaurant. He has $5,000 worth of weapons, another $800 worth of ballistic material in his vest, ammunition, and a sidearm. Where did he get it from, guys? Come on. Where did he get this stuff from? He had to have somebody give him all this armament. He couldn't have bought it himself. He doesn't have enough money. He lives with his grandma, for God's sakes. Come on. We got to look to some different venues on this. And, of course, the FBI is not looking into any of it, I'm sure, because they're not quite right in the head. Anyway, we know they're a bunch of criminals anyway. Okay, look, the following two-part video is on counter-victimization. I'm going to teach you how not to be a victim. And most of this starts with a thing called situational awareness. Developing situational awareness skills is the ability to observe your surroundings and make assessments about your environment, and it's obviously known as situational awareness, and there are 3 general categories, and we're going to explore these in this video. Observation and orientation is 1. The 4 steps of situational decision making is observation, orientation, and states of awareness and focus. Number 2 is baseline goals and an action plan. Baselines and anomalies for specific environments, mental modes of human behavior to be aware of, plans of action based on observations and available information. All this, it's not hard, but you have to practice it, folks. Situation awareness as a preventive tactic. Being a victim, easy target syndrome, folks. The practice of situational awareness, you have to practice it. The harsh reality in the real world, and this is not a video game, is terrorists equal criminals strike without warning to paralyze their victims. How long do you think it took for 13 or 19, actually 21 individuals to be dead persons? I bet you it took a matter of minutes. Don't count on the police to be there when you need them, because of their timidity, as we've seen in Texas and other places, not just Texas, and lack of training, they're almost always behind the power curve in almost every situation. Your safety and safety of your loved ones is your responsibility, nobody else's. Don't expect help when the criminal event starts. You must be vigilant. Owning and being proficient with a firearm or other types of weapons is a good start. Obviously, the government is going to do their arms control thing on this whole thing, and that's where they're coming from. But you don't have to use a firearm to defend yourself. There are a lot of other weapons that you can use. Find one that fits you and practice with it. Do not be a victim. Refrain from large gatherings of people. Terrorists want as much bang as they can get for their buck, let's face it. Large crowds give them that opportunity. Movie theaters, sporting events, churches, outdoor music events, and the list goes on and on, may not be a good option based on current events. Okay, the ability to observe your surroundings and make detailed assessments of your environment is not just a trait of covert operatives. It's a skill known as situational awareness, and you can possess it too. As the name implies, situational awareness is simply knowing what's going on around you. It sounds easy in principle, but in reality it requires a lot of practice. And while it's taught to soldiers and some special operations folks and some law enforcement agencies, and yes, government-trained covert operatives, it is an important skill for civilians to learn as well. In a dangerous situation, being aware of a threat, even seconds before everyone else, can keep you and your loved ones out of harm's way. This is also a skill that can and should be developed for reasons outside personal defense and safety. Situational awareness is really mindfulness, and developing yours will make you cognizant of what is going on around you and more present in your daily activities, which in turn will help you make better decisions in some aspects of your life. Many of the resources on situational awareness say that it can be cultivated by generally keeping tabs on your surrounding. The military says check your six, which is really checking behind you and keeping your back to the wall. This definition isn't entirely wrong. That is exactly what situational awareness is. Knowing what is going on by scanning your environment, but this is too simplistic. What exactly am I looking for? How do I know if I'm paying attention to the right things? Are there behaviors or warning signs of an imminent threat that I should know about? Presently, we are going to discuss the general principles of increasing your observational abilities, and then delve deeper into situational awareness itself to answer some of these important questions. The 4 steps to situational decision making are observation, looking at things in a different perspective perhaps than you usually do, orientation, developing an action plan, and action. In the real world scenario, a person who can cycle through these 4 steps the fastest wins, sort of like a gunfighter. It is obvious that the first step, observation, is what most people associate with situational awareness but it is the second step, orientation, that answers the questions about what developing situational awareness really involves. Orientation tells us what we should look for when we're observing and put those observations into context so we know what to do with the information. Okay, step 1, relaxed alertness. There's no specific threat situation in this particular scenario, but you have your head up and you're surveying your surroundings with all your senses. Most associate situational awareness with visual stimulation, but you can also learn quite a bit about a particular scenario from sounds and even smells in the environment, i.e. gunfire going off, the grassy knoll and the Kennedy assassination. People smelled cordite, they smelled the smoke, and they heard rounds going off behind them. Case in point. Even though your senses are highly heightened in this step, it is also important to stay relaxed. By adopting a calm demeanor, you won't bring unnecessary attention to yourself. If you look antsy and your head is swiveling frantically while you scan your surroundings, you'll be noticed. Additionally, staying relaxed ensures that you maintain an open focus, which allows you to glean more information from your surroundings. Research shows that when we become nervous or stressed, our attention narrows, causing us to concentrate on just a few things at a time. A narrow focus can therefore cause you to miss important details in your environment. So, look up from your cell phone. Folks, cell phones are the bane of situational awareness. Don't zone out. Open your eyes, ears, and nose and calmly scan your environment to identify possible threats. Step 2, position yourself for optimal observation. This is very important. I do this every day. To achieve effective situational awareness, you need to observe as much of your surroundings as possible. Do not position yourself in obstructed parts of a public place. This will inhibit your flow of information. Granted, it can't work in all situations. In a busy restaurant, you may not have control over your table location, but you can choose which seat you take and put your back against the wall. Pick the chair that gives you the best view of the establishment from your table. When you're standing in line at a fast food restaurant, look around and take in the scene. In an airliner, seasoned travelers choose an aisle seat in the rear of the aircraft for 2 very good reasons. First, the aisle seat is more accessible to what is going on the plane, and in a crash, the tail is the most survivable part of the aircraft. Okay, step 3. You need to hone your observation skills. To hone your skills and the skills of your loved ones, play the awareness game, and this is fun. You can do this with your family. Go into a business, any business, it doesn't matter, fast food, restaurant, whatever. Make note of a few things about your environment. For example, the number of employees behind the counter, the clothing and the gender of the person next to you, how many entry and exits are there. And then when you leave and are in the car, ask your loved ones, your children, about the things you observed. Memorization is important. Step 4, improve your situational awareness through memorization. And you know this. We learn how to do this in kindergarten and first grade. These skills can be amplified by practicing with a deck of cards or strings of numbers, but guys know how to do memorization. We do it a lot. Baselines, goal, and action plans. Being more observant is enough to match your situational awareness. You must know what you're looking for, and then put that information into context so it's meaningful and becomes actionable. You must take action at the end of this, ladies and gentlemen. The orientation step provides 3 things to help us achieve situational awareness. Baseline anomalies for our particular environment, mental modes of human behavior we should look for, and plans of action based on our observations. Establish baselines, and wherever you go, a baseline is a normal in a given situation. It's what's normal in a given situation or a place. And it will differ from person to person, environment to environment. For example, the baseline at a small coffee shop usually will entail people reading a book maybe, or working on their computer, or speaking in hushed tones to their friends. What other baselines can you think of? There are hundreds of them. We establish baselines so that we can identify anomalies. Anomalies are things that either do not happen and should, or that do not happen and shouldn't. Anomalies are what we direct our attention as we survey our surroundings and what we need to focus on to achieve situational awareness. So the first step in orienting ourselves is to establish that we direct our attention to the anomalies in whatever situation you're in. How do we do that in the real world? I suggest you ask yourself these questions every time you enter a new environment. What's going on here? What is the general mood of the place? And what should it be? What is the normal activity I should expect in this particular place? And how do most people behave here most of the time? These are questions that you should ask every time. Stay tuned for video 2. We're going to go into some other things. The anomaly question, behavioral clusters, some kinetics, dominance, submissive behavior, and some other things. So in video 2, which is coming up next, we will get into some more situational awareness and how you cannot put yourself in the position of a victim. Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned. Thanks.